Okay, so we're going to continue. We're holding Perek Kaf Aleph, Perek or chapter 21. Not such a long Perek. Nonetheless, it contains quite a bit of information about the future, which is very interesting. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to tell if he's describing an event or a period in time where he was involved, where things affected him directly, or he could be talking about the future, and sometimes he mixes the two, because after all, history repeats itself. And many, of course, of the greater miracles that B'ezrat Hashem we will see are in the future. Even though we had them in the past, they were not so apparent, they will become more and more apparent. And David HaMelech, as we know from tradition, says what he says, Beruach HaKodesh. He's divinely inspired, and he's definitely acting as a prophet and telling us, giving over to us messages about the future wars as well, the war of Gog and Magog. So we'll talk a little bit about that towards the middle, towards the end. He begins, as he does many perakim, Lam Natzach Mizmor David. This particular Mizmor, this song, these words of praise were composed to be said, the rabbis tell us, for the Jewish nation to be thankful for being victorious at war. In other words, say thank you. In other words, Baruch Hashem, you got out alive, you defeated the enemy. Don't just go on with your life by not reacting to it, by taking it for granted. It's not through your strength, it's not through your might, or through your professionalism and experience. It's always going to be Hashem that we have to have in mind. So the Mizmor, the song, is intended for various things. Number one, to give praise and thanks to Hashem. Very important idea. We do so every day, not only through our prayers, but through the blessings that we make. But it's also a time to reflect. It's a time to be awakened to the fact that Hashem is involved in our life. Hashem watches over us. Some people forget that point. And there are quite a few enemies who even claim that God has abandoned us. So in order to dispel those statements or that way of thinking, we from time to time see incredible miracles that pretty much contradict those individuals who say, he abandoned you. No, he didn't. You know, look at these great miracles that he has done on our behalf. So by saying this Mizmor, not only are we thanking, we are awakening ourselves. It is enabling us to focus. By saying the words, as long as we understand them, of course, it enables us to focus properly on the many miracles that occur with us on a daily basis, but especially so when we see a tremendous miraculous event. So he begins after telling us that this is a Mizmor. These are words to be sung, these are words of praise to be said. Adonai be'ozecha yismach melech u'b'sha'atecha ma yagel me'od. He says that a king, he doesn't say which king, the king rejoices be'ozecha in your strength. U'b'sha'atecha ma yagel me'od. And he says how greatly he rejoices in your salvation and your deliverance. In other words, a melech, a king, has many battles, has many experiences in life. Sometimes he wins, sometimes he loses. But there's no doubt that he faces challenges. And some of them are very difficult challenges indeed. He may have a powerful army, and he may draft many soldiers into the army and prepare himself to go to war and come out victorious. Nevertheless, he says, the Melech that he's talking about, he's going to rejoice in your strength. He will attribute it to you. And how much more so will he rejoice when he knows that the Yeshua has come from you. So this is a familiar theme. These are words that we've heard before, how we have to give credit where credit is due. And if he's talking about himself, then he does that. He's always thanked Hashem. He never took credit for it for himself. Never thought for a moment that it was through his professionalism or experience at war as a general or as a king that that is the reason why he succeeded. He always knows that Hashem has been behind him, and he wants to serve an example, of course, to others as well. Or he could be talking about Mashiach. Some say he's talking directly here also about Mashiach. And who is the enemy? The enemy, as we will see, that Mashiach confronts is Gog and Magog, which we'll see a little bit more details about later. And when will that confrontation happen? When it will be around Yerushalayim. Well, around Yerushalayim, that could not have been 100 years ago, or 200 years ago, 300 for sure not, because it was empty. There were not too many Jews there. There was no reason to bring about a confrontation. So we know that this will be at a time when the Jews would have already gathered there, and there will somehow be reason for them to come out against Mashiach, to come out against Am Yisrael. And even though this is a big topic, the topic of Gog and Magog, which I've spoken about at length in other lectures, there are various opinions on how it unfolds, if it has to unfold exactly the way the prophets describe, or if there's another option. Yes, there are certain options. World War I and World War II were definitely part of the process called Gog and Magog. After all, you're dealing with world wars, not a local battle. Major wars, a lot of loss of life, unfortunately. So there's no doubt that this is all part of the process. We're talking about the same time frame in history over the course of 100 years, give or take, where all these major events will occur. World War I started in 1914, and what's the year now? 2014. I just thought of it, by the way.
No.
So what we have is 100 years. Are we expecting anything? I am. Yeah, there's definitely significance to time. In Judaism, time is of an essence. In other words, things happen at certain times, whether it's a time of a holiday, whether it's a time of tragedy in the past, where things repeat itself. There's some propitious moments for good things, and unfortunately, sometimes that are not so propitious. So there's definitely going to be reason to rejoice when Mashiach comes. And that rejoice will, of course, be Bishu'atecha, as a result of seeing clearly that Hashem is involved. Where it will be much more revealed, not only to us, but to the rest of the world. And since it will be revealed to the rest of the world, of course, that simcha will be greater than whatever we can imagine. However, there's another point here that we've mentioned in the past, is that it's not so much that the Melech is so happy for himself that he has come out alive, that he's saved, that he can go on, Baruch Hashem, in taking care of his constituents, his people, his nation. We're so overjoyed that we will be when the Shekhinah will be able to come out of exile. Right now, the Shekhinah, as we call it, the divine presence, is in exile, which I have a separate lecture about what that means. But briefly, things are tough as far as the belief in God is concerned. Things are tough as far as justice in the world is concerned. Things are tough as far as Am Yisrael, the nation, the Jewish nation, being scattered all over the world. And even though we don't have the persecution of the Inquisition, we still have issues and problems, and there's no peace. So all of that, of course, is carried, that weight is all carried by the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah carries that weight, that burden, that sorrow is reflected in the Shekhinah being also in exile, the temple not being rebuilt. And once, of course, all of that begins to take form and shape, it will be a tremendous simcha to see the Shekhinah elevated, the Shekhinah coming out of exile. So he's not only referring to his own happiness, right? But Bishu'atecha, in the salvation or in the deliverance of the Shekhinah. If we can say those words, in other words, even though Hashem does not need to be delivered, it's more of a way of explaining of it coming out of the galut, coming out of it, of the status that it is in now. It is a status as described by the Torah, that the kiseh lo shalem, the throne of Hashem is incomplete so long as Amalek rules the world. Rules the world, meaning that there's so much corruption, and there's so much, fortunately, lack of justice, and wars, and all that, because Amalek is in charge, in a sense. Even though Hashem is always in charge, But he has allowed Amalek free reign for the time being, until Malchut Shamayim is revealed, and then things become clear. In order to enable free will, we've spoken about this a long time ago. Hashem created the possibility of evil to coexist, in a sense, coexist with goodness, with godliness. Coexist meaning that not that they live together and as brothers, but that they live at the same time. And you have those who advocate to do right, and those that don't care, and those that, of course, go and do the wrong thing, and totally deny even the existence of morality, of values, of godliness. And we as a Jewish people have certain responsibilities. I mean, we're the ones that are supposed to be the light unto the nations, and we did not always do such a good job. We have done somewhat of a good job. I do want to give credit to all the tzaddikim, to the righteous people who gave their lives, who did so much. Their tears and their service and their efforts did not go to waste. We are alive because of them. We are riding on their shoulder. So obviously something right was done, but there's too much evil in the world. And the world is judged as a whole. And we live in this whole, in this world. And we suffer the consequences if evil is rampant. So when you have famine, and when you have tsunamis, and when you have earthquakes, if you happen to be in that location, well, what can you do? It's part of feeling or experiencing the results or the consequences of evil, paying for its deeds. Just that evil doesn't get the message yet, but they will soon. So the time will come, B'ezrat Hashem, he says, that Hashem be'ozecha yismach melech. If it's talking about Mashiach, then it's talking about the future. That the Melech HaMashiach, of course, will rejoice. If it's talking about himself, then of course he's overjoyed. He's overjoyed by having seen Hashem's interaction with him, where he was saved and protected. All right. The next pasuk, Ta'avat libo natata lo va'areshet sefatav balmanat asela. Ta'avat libo, you have given him what his heart desire is. In other words, his request. If he's talking about the king, then the king has many requests. You've given to him. You've granted him his request, those desires in his heart. V'areshet sefatav balmanat asela, and all that he was attempting to utter, or he did utter through his lips, you did not hold back. You did not block it. You did not withhold it forever. A very interesting pasuk. The first part is a little bit easier to understand. It involves prayers. It involves requests. Ta'avat libo. So ta'avat libo means that all the requests that we may have had from Hashem, which were in the heart. So they were concealed. They were never expressed even. But Hashem knows what is in our hearts and mind, which is a very important concept that is emphasized from time to time. He can read our hearts and mind. He knows what's there. And if one is on the level, if one is on the right level, then his requests are granted even before he expresses them. So ta'avat libo is talking about those inner thoughts, those requests that are concealed, those needs that we have. Natatalo, you've granted it to him. And what he actually expressed with his lips, the utterances of his lips, Balmanati, you didn't hold it back. So it appears to be repetition, but remember what we said many times, there's no repetition. Every word, every statement here adds something. There's obviously a difference between the heart's desires and what is being uttered and expressed verbally. That is a big difference. I mean, when somebody prays to Hashem and puts a lot of effort into his prayers, that means he's expressing himself, he's making an effort, but that which he did not say, even though it's a need and it's in there, that's already a whole different level. So anyway, so he says both were granted. Both were granted to him, and both can be granted to any individual who's on a high level, on a high spiritual level. So here David is giving thanks to the fact that it was obvious, it became obvious to everybody that the Ashgacha was present, that the divine presence was there because his requests were granted. Imagine praying to Hashem, gathering, making a big gathering, we need rain. And 5 minutes afterwards, the clouds come. Isn't that revealed? Isn't that galui? Well, that happened over history many, many times. When the non-Jews, in Morocco, for example, the king told the Jews, I know, when you come together, there will be rain. In Iraq, it happened the same thing. The Jews went to the cemetery. Somebody who's alive today told me this, that he remembers that. There was no rain. And the big rabbi went to the cemetery, I believe it was. They fasted, most likely. And after they were pretty much compelled by the Muslims to go and do, I don't know if it was a few minutes later or an hour later, it began to rain, to pour. So what's that? That's ta'avat libo natatalo. Vareshet sefatav bal manatas. He didn't hold back. They prayed. They saw results. So in these results, we see the Ashgacha. We see clearly the divine presence. And not only did we see it, the non-Jewish world saw it many, many times, over and over again, that Hashem listens to prayers. Now, this listening to prayers is a very important idea because it reminds us that prayers are powerful. It reminds us that tzaddikim, of course, have, as we say in Spanish, they have palancas. They have pull with Hashem. Tzaddikim, they have pull, right? I think that's what it's called in English, right? In Hebrew, protectia. Yeah. Say, yes. Rabbis tell us, tzaddik gozer, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mekayem. Tzaddik says a beracha, he decrees, Hashem fulfills his words. Yeah, that's how much power he has. And sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu withholds something back intentionally just for people to pray to him. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu mit'avel et filatan shel tzaddikim. The rabbis tell us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Almighty, looks forward. He wants, he desires the prayer of the tzaddikim. So he sometimes holds something back as a result of that. Areshet sefatav, however, here also means something else possibly. The Ben Ish Chai, I remember, asks the following question. Right before we begin the prayer, the Amidah, right? What words do we say before we begin the prayer? Hashem sefatai tiftach, ufi yagiti latecha. Please, God, open up my lips so my mouth could communicate to you my praise to you. So open up my mouth. And the question is, Ben Ish Chai asks, Hashem should open up our mouth, our lips? That we have to do. We do, and then Hashem does his part. We are asking for Hashem to do that too. It's enough we're asking him a favor. He should open up our lips. You pray. Come along and pray. Do something, and I will answer. I will grant you, hopefully, depending on what the request is. So Ben Ish Chai says, what those words really mean is that we don't want Hashem to do all the work for us. Hashem sefatai tiftach tigrom li, cause me, bring it about somehow that I should be so excited, that I should be in the right mood, the state of mind, that I should want to open up my mouth to thank you, to glorify you, not just to make requests of you, of course. Ufi yagiti latecha we're talking about, so my mouth should express your praise. Please bring it about. How will Hashem bring it about? Imagine if somebody's life is saved. Right? Remember the story with the Malaysian Airlines I told you last time? Yeah, there was somebody supposed to be on that flight almost. Somehow, at the last minute, he changed his mind. He didn't want to fly on Shabbat. He was told not to fly on Saturday. So that hopefully will be an example of something that has the potential to open up his mouth, his lips. Begin to praise, say thank you. Perhaps give some charity. He was very impressed. He was very moved. Who wouldn't be? The question is, what do you do with that? You know, sometimes people are very motivated, but that motivation eventually dissipates. Inspiration doesn't last forever. So to the tefillah, the Ben Ish Chai explains in the tefillah, when we say Hashem sefatai tiftach, please do something so that I should be motivated, so that I should want to say, you know, with all my heart, with all the kavanah, with all my intent, the praise for you. So it could be, I wanted to say, that could be that this is also being communicated to us over here. Vareshet sefatav bal mana'ata sela. In other words, never hold us back from praying to you. What does that mean? In other words, we always want to be excited. We always want to say your praise. And what happens in reality is that some people do not know how to pray. Some people know how to pray, but they don't even know what to ask. What should I say? What should I ask? How should I word my request? So, Reshet Sefatav B'Manat Sela, you always, David HaMelech says, you always did, and hopefully you always will, not hold back or not limit our ability to express ourselves. I think that's a very interesting idea. Even though nobody mentions that, everybody's trying to stick to the literal meaning. But obviously we want to be excited, we want to be motivated, so that we should be able to express our gratitude and our thanks to Hashem. If you ever notice in Tanakh, in the various books of the Torah and the prophets, you will find the word Selah, Netzach, Va'id. They all mean forever, eternal. Why say that? What does eternal mean? So there is a statement made by the rabbis, Tanya Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, I think, that says, Kol makom shene'emar Netzach Selah Va'id. Any place that it says those words, either one, Netzach Selah Va'id, which means for eternity, forever, Le'olmei olamim. That's what it means. It means forever. Forever? Yeah. In other words, somebody who has reached a certain level in his kesher, connection, relationship with Hashem, his prayers are always heard. His blessings always come true, pretty much. So much so that even after he has died, people still go to his kever to ask him to intercede on their behalf. So, obviously here he's using the word va'ed, Selah, in the concept of Vareshet Sefatav. In other words, that his blessings or that his prayers should always be accepted in the Shamayim. And there are people who reach that level. So it's not only that he's talking or describing about himself, that he was always granted that he always noticed that about himself, but I'm sure he's also saying that about the future, that this is a prayer, a request that we make of Hashem, that he should always accept it, forever accept our prayers, and always listen to what we have to say. And soon he's going to explain to us who that individual is, what it takes. How could you tell if somebody is very much loved by Hashem? That he puts him pretty much on this level of accepting his prayers, listening to what he has to say, and granting pretty much his requests. Next pasuk, Ki tekademenu birchot tov tashit lerosho ateret paz. Some of these phrases are a little bit difficult to figure out. In other words, we understand the words, but sometimes we don't understand how they relate. Ki tekademenu birchot tov. We know what the words brachot are. Tov, blessings, good blessings. What is he saying here? Ki tekademenu. David HaMelech is telling us a little bit about his history, about his past. You preceded him. In other words, you brought about early. Even before he ever asked about it, before he even dreamt about it, you were already kind to David. You made him king when he was a shepherd, basically. Was he dreaming about being king? This humble shepherd, what does he know about being king? So, many times, as the rabbi tells us, Kadosh Baruch Hu Magdim Refuah Lemakah. Kadosh Baruch Hu works many generations before. He has the plans from a long time ago. Hashem Magdim. You've brought about those blessings and all the good, blessings of good, much way before I even asked about it or even thought about it. Which is a little bit of a continuation of what we said before, that his prayers are answered. But here, it's even before he even was thinking about it. Tashit lerosho ateret paz. You were placing on him a crown of gold. Paz really means pure gold. Which could be referring to his malchut. I mean, otherwise, why is he talking about, ateret? Ateret is like a keter, a crown. He's talking about David. He's talking about the crown of gold by becoming king. But here comes a surprise. Ki tekadmenu birchot tov, according to the Zohar, is talking about something very, very special that can happen when somebody prays for another individual who needs help. If you know somebody is single, you know somebody needs a refuah shelema, he needs a fast recovery, he needs parnasah, he needs livelihood, wherever it is, and you pray for him, and you who are praying has the same exact need, you will be answered first, the rabbis tell us. Whoever prays for his friend and he needs the exact same thing, he will be answered first. Zohar says it in different words. The Zohar says that as a result of praying for someone else, when you really need yourself, you have needs, you open up tzinorot, you open up channels of shefa, of blessing, that will come on you. Just for making a prayer on behalf of others, you open up channels of beracha, of blessing, of shefa on you. Which is basically what it means, what we said before, that as a result of one's action on behalf of others, you're so unselfish, you think so much about others, this brings about a tremendous, blessing, a very positive energy is created here, or is channeled to one as a result of such actions. So in other words, those are beautiful actions indeed, beautiful deeds, when one thinks of others, cares about others, and prays for others. It's something very, very special, and it is very much encouraged, by the way. If somebody really has a need, he should focus on the need of others. So here, when he says, Ki tekademeno birchot tov, it will come to him first. That's what the word ki tekademeno, according to the Zohar, means it will come to him first, the brachot of tov, if he thinks or prays for others. Chaim sha'al mimmecha natata lo orech yamim olam va'ed. That's the next pasuk. What did he ask you for? What did David HaMelech ask you for? And what is Melech HaMashiach going to ask you for? The exact same thing. For different reasons. We'll see why. David HaMelech says, Chaim sha'al mimcha. Let's assume it's talking about himself. He asked for life, of course. He was being pursued by his enemies many, many, many times. So he asked to live. So Chaim sha'al mimcha. And guess what happened? Natatalo. And you gave him. Now what did you give him exactly? There's all kinds of lives. There's a short life too. No. You gave him orech yamim olam va'ed. That's interesting. He asked for life and you gave him length of life. In other words, you gave it to him, you granted him. That means you saved him. You saved his life many times. But you also granted him not just a short life, you granted him orech yamim, a lengthy life, olam va'ed, for eternity. For eternity? Nobody lives forever. But wait a minute. We do recall David Melech Israel Chai V'Kayam. Chai V'Kayam, he's still alive. We say that, right? David Melech is still alive. Well, it's a little bit more of a Kabbalistic statement when we say Chai V'Kayam. I mean, obviously he's not active, he's not physical, the way we know normal human beings are physically alive and active. But there's a certain aliveness in David, and that is in his seed. And that is that Malchut Mashiach, even though it's not there now, it will be restored. Forever it will be from his seed, the Malchut of David. In other words, the Malchut over Israel. And Melech HaMashiach therefore comes from Zerah Shel David. So the idea of saying something is Olam Va'ed is his progeny. In other words, that which will come out from him will continue with what was granted to him. What was granted to him? The Malchut. Life was granted to him personally. Orech Yamim, length of life as well. But Olam Va'ed, that can only be talking really more about Mashiach, Malchut, and reign and so forth. According to the Kabbalah, however, you'll be surprised. Life was granted to him from scratch. His neshama had no life. Very strange statement. And he was given 70 years of Adam HaRishon. Most of you may probably have heard about this. Adam HaRishon, according to tradition, was supposed to live 1,000 years. 70 years were subtracted. He only lived 930. Who got the 70? David HaMelech. Couldn't Hashem just give David HaMelech 70 and let the Adam HaRishon live for 1,000? So it's a little bit difficult for us, in our limited minds, to understand exactly the mechanics here of why this had to be like that. But what it really is saying is that David HaMelech really, if I were to say it on a level that we can all relate to and understand, is that David HaMelech is directly connected to Adam HaRishon. Let's just say that way, even though we all the Neshamot are from Adam HaRishon, but there's a certain connection that's reflected in David that is directly coming from Adam. Let's just say that. And because of that, he's in a very high level. His neshama is in a high level. His soul is a very, very special soul. And 70 years are granted for that soul called David HaMelech to be in this world at a certain time in the history of mankind. As you know, there is something called Gilgulim, reincarnations, sparks of souls. So there is a certain representation of Adam in David. There's a certain representation of David in Mashiach. Even though David, of course, comes back out in Tchiyat HaMetim in the resurrection, there is still a Mashiach in every generation from Zerah David. And ultimately, even though David is considered Melech HaMashiach in a sense, it's really much more his progeny, that which will come out from him. So representation, nitzotzot, sparks in individuals who are all related because they're all from the same root of the soul, Shoresh HaNeshama, explains to us or sheds a little bit light as to what the connection here is with Adam. It's 70 years granted for Malchut. Let's just leave it at that. There is some connection to all of that. Now, if we're talking about Mashiach, he also asks for life. According to one tradition, there's Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. Mashiach that comes from Joseph and Mashiach that comes from David. Mashiach from David is one we are waiting for. He's the one that rebuilds the Bet HaMikdash, the temple. He's the one that's in charge of the ingathering, of the diaspora. He's in charge of destroying Amalek, even though that happens through Hashem. Hashem says, I will do it, but he's the king and he's involved. All right. So what is Mashiach ben Yosef? This is the job of a leader that will come about that will conduct some of the wars of Israel. In other words, he has a role to play. And some of his roles are mentioned in the Zohar, in the Kabbalah, in other Sefarim, other books. Just like Eliyahu Navi, Eliyahu the prophet, has a role to play when he appears as well. This Mashiach ben David, according to one tradition, will be killed in one of the wars. And there were always prayers made by the Mekubalim that he should not die. So he may no longer die. But anyway, in the worst case scenario, this leader is killed. Mashiach ben David sees him dead. And Hashem says, which request would you like me to grant you first? I want to live. In other words, Chaim, Sha'al mimecha natatalo. Hashem says, I grant you life. Don't worry. You will be alive. Nothing will happen to you. So it's a way of saying, don't worry. Once you come to the scene, death will, in a sense, pretty much disappear. Before you know it, Mahashem dim'am al kol panim. Death will cease to exist, and Hashem will wipe the tears of all those who have been mourning over those dear relatives of theirs who passed. There will no longer be, that kind of a problem. So there you have Tchiyat HaMetchim, you have the resurrection, you have people stopping to die. So of course, Hashem will grant him life. Hashem will grant life really to all of humanity afterwards. But he is concerned about his fate, according to that tradition where he sees Mashiach ben David being killed. Either way, why do we need life? Well, we want life because we want to accomplish. We want life so that we can sanctify God's name. We want life so that we should be able to fulfill our mission. If life is cut short, it's no good. So it's not just we want to live and have hamburgers, eat, enjoy, play golf. No, Chaim, what for? What for Chaim? So that we can fulfill our mission. Everyone has a special mission. Mashiach has a very important mission. So you will grant it to him. And this, of course, Malchut will be eternal until the end of days, till the end of times. Next pasuk. Gadol kevodo b'shuatecha hod ve'adar teshaveh alav. Gadol kevodo, his kavod, his glory, his honor. Whose honor? The Mashiach. It will be so great, bishuatecha, when you will bring about your deliverance, your salvation. His glory, His kavod will be so great. Hod ve'adar teshaveh alav, and you will place on Him hod ve'adar, majesty and splendor. So this sounds like Mashiach too, because the characteristics or the description of majesty, glory, splendor, which kind of a king will have all this? Only Mashiach. You know why? Because this is the type of glory or kavod that no other human being has ever had. Because this kavod will be given to him by all those who are alive then, all the nations of the world, not just the Jews. Melech HaMashiach, some people think, oh, the Jewish king, the Jewish Messiah, this is a Messiah for the world. This is Mashiach for the whole entire world. He's coming to bring about peace. He's trying to bring down Malchut Shamayim to reveal the truth. You know, finally, peace everywhere. Yeah, no more problems in Africa, no more problems in Asia, no more problems in North and South Korea, no more famine, no more nothing. As long as, of course, everybody, during the time we still have the evil inclination in the beginning, behaves themselves. It will be transitional. It's in various stages. So when that happens and everybody's convinced that He is the Mashiach, you can imagine the kavod, gadol kevodo. His kavod will be so great, b'shu'atecha. In other words, when you bring about that Yeshua, that salvation, where everybody will see that hod and kavod. What we learn from this pasuk, by the way, the rabbis tell us there's a special blessing that you say when you see a king. There's a special blessing that you say when you see tzaddikim, righteous men. When you see a righteous man, the blessing is shechalak michochmato lire'av. He's a chacham, he's a tzaddik, righteous, great wise man. Shechalak, we bless Hashem, wow, you've given from your chokhmah to those who fear you. When we see a melech who has tremendous authority, shechalak mikvodo lebasar vadam, you have given to a human a kavod that really only belongs to you. So you see, so gadol kevodo, look at the greatness of the kavod that Hashem accords, gives to certain individuals that we have to recognize. Hashem, if he's wealthy, you have to respect him. Hashem gave him wealth. There's a certain respect that you have to give a wealthy man. Hashem has given him the wealth. Hopefully he uses it for the right things. Hopefully he's not an evil man. Hopefully, he behaves himself. So all of that we recognize. That's all from Shamayim. But especially the kavod of Mashiach, that will be unsurpassed. That will be the greatest kavod of all. Next pasuk, ki teshiteu berachot la'ad tehadeu besimcha et panecha. So here David HaMelech talks in general that those who you love, those who you really care about, it could be including the Mashiach too, but here it's just more talking about those that trust in Him, those that pray to Him, those that follow His ways. Ki teshiteu berachot la'ad. You will always have blessings accompany him. In other words, you will make him. Teshitel means to make him into a blessing. You will always be blessed. Now, how could you make somebody blessed forever? That is because the children continue to be blessed. So even after he dies, the blessing is still there. And that blessing could be monetary too. When there is a blessing from Shamayim, money goes from one generation to the other. When it's not a blessing, it's just mazal, his fate. It's just inheritance. It won't last. How do you know if money is a blessing? It lasts for several generations. It's not eaten up by infighting amongst relatives, jealousy, lawyers, which is unfortunately too common, right? So you can see a blessing going over to the various generations. That's a blessing. Same thing with other things, not just money. He's saying that those who are close to him, of course, he will become a beracha la'ad forever, even after his death. His children will continue to be blessed. Tehadeu besimcha et panecha. And you will gladden him. You will make him happy with your joy. What joy? Besimcha et panecha. The joy of your countenance. as we translate panecha here, the face of Hashem. Now, what does that mean? When Hashem wants to make someone happy, when Hashem wants to prove or show someone that He's happy with him, somehow He makes it very obvious. In Hebrew, there's a term called Hashem me'ir lo panim. Me'ir lo panim means that He shows him a illuminated countenance. Hashem is happy with him. It's just like when you see somebody's happy with you, He smiles at you, He's so happy for you, He's happy with you, He's overjoyed. It's a certain feeling that one can get just by looking at someone, right? So there is a way to tell, and we don't really have the time to go into that right now. There's a way to tell. A person can tell if Hashem is happy with him or unhappy with him. One way I'll tell you. It depends what people say. If people are generally very, very happy with you, have good things to say about you, that's a good sign. If people are not very happy with you, people, in general, a lot of people have something negative to say, that could be a sign from Shamayim. Now, it also could be Lashon Hara. It could be that they're talking negatively about you. It could be that you've made somebody very upset. It could be all kinds of things. It all depends on the circumstances. So here what he's saying is, Techadeu besimcha et panecha, those who you care about, those who you really are connected with, you will gladden them with the joy of your countenance, meaning that they will be able to see, everybody will be able to see, Hashem loves him. So that is I think this is a beautiful, very beautiful beracha, that, people have had this. It's similar to metziat chen, limtzochem v'sechel tov b'einei Elokim ve'adam, to find grace in the eyes of God and human beings. If one is able to make Hashem happy and human beings happy, it's hard to make human beings happy, you know that, right? But if one is able to succeed in that, that's very, very blessed. That is why this pasuk over here is really telling us that one of the things that we should always aspire for, strive for, is to make Hashem happy more than anybody else. Because to make people happy is very difficult. Because we want Tehadeu b'simcha et panecha, that He should gladden us with His happy countenance. The question is how? There was once a student of a rabbi who met up with his rabbi after many years. So the rabbi asked him, "So, my dear student, how are you doing?" And you know what the student tells the rabbi? "Rabbi, I have no complaints to God." So the rabbi turns to him and says, "That's not important that you have no complaints to God. It's more important if He has no complaints against you. I don't care that you have no complaints. I want to make sure He has no complaints about you. That's more important." And that's what we need to be careful with. That our actions should not bring about complaints on us for not behaving ourselves. That's what we have to strive for. Make Hashem happy. So more than anything else, that needs to be our focus. Next pasuk. Ki hamelech boteach b'Adonai b'chesed elyon balimot. Here, I believe, the way I understand this pasuk is pretty much in the middle of the chapter. David HaMelech is revealing to us a tremendous koach, the tremendous strength, and how special the quality of bitachon in God is, to have trust in God. HaMelech, king, who's all-powerful, who's so capable. HaMelech, if he's referring about himself, he's also saying this. And it's true. David HaMelech did trust. Ki HaMelech boteach b'Hashem. The king trusts in Hashem, in God. U'bechesed elyon. And he trusts, and he depends, of course, in the kindness of Elyon, the Most High, meaning God. In other words, referring to the fact that all his help has come from above. And therefore, because he has this trust, Bal Yimot, therefore he will never fall apart, he will never falter, he will never weaken. Yimot is to fall down, to collapse. Who has that kind of a confidence? One who has first confidence or trust in Hashem. So, Ki HaMelech boteach b'Hashem, such a king who of all people may not have that bitachon in God. He's president of some country. You know, I can't understand these people. They wrote it in the currency of, "In God we trust," and they don't follow it. Do you hear it, by the way? Did any senator Have you ever heard for the past 25 years or whatever that we trust in God that we will be able to succeed and we will prevail? God is not mentioned. They separated church from state, so they took him out. But it's still in the coin. In the coin, somehow they left it there. Maybe because they worship money, so I guess they put God. So I don't know why. Otherwise, but there's no mention. I don't know any country. It's terrible. God is not mentioned. Let's think what God would want us to do here. Nobody thinks like that. Not even in Israel. Could you believe that? Even though God's name, of course, is mentioned by those who are more religious, but not enough. Not enough is being said that we trust in God that everything will work out. We trust in God that we will prevail. Be'ezat Hashem, with the help of God, this will come out right. Mention Him. Pray to Him. So here he's saying the king, the man who's in charge, may not think like that, but he, David HaMelech says, Amelech Boteh Hashem. He does trusts in the chesed, in the kindness of above, and because of that, he has no reason to fear. Bal Yimot, such an individual who has this bitachon will never fail. Nobody can harm him. He has no reason to fear. Beautiful, beautiful attribute or characteristic, however you want to call it, which very few people unfortunately have enough of. This generation has a tremendous lack of midat bitachon. They may have some emunah, they believe in God created the world, okay, but that's it. To have bitachon means I know He's there, I know He hears me, I know He sees me, He's involved in my life, He takes care of me. I have nothing. No, why should I worry? Of course, I got to do my share, I got to do my part, right? But to have such a very easy understanding of Hashem's presence and such clarity is missing. And because it's missing, you have so much anxiety, and people are sad and depressed and fighting and materialistic. But wait a minute. The money you have is all Hashem wants you to have. So why are you upset? That's what He wants you to have. If He wanted you to have more, He would give you more. Don't you believe that? Oh, I didn't think of it that way. I thought it's up to me. It's up to you? Since when is it up to you? You see where people are so uneducated? Up to one, to how much money he's going to make? No. It's up to Hashem. It's up to one's mazal. So if people had more clarity in these subjects, they wouldn't fear. They would do their best. They would do their maximum. They would fill out resumes. They would go take courses, of course. As you say in Farsi, Asto harikat. Right? Aschoda barakat. Yeah. Right. You have to make the harikat. You have to make the effort. Yeah. In Arabic, the same thing. Minnakil harakah. Min Allah al barakah. In other words, you have to make an effort. So if you make an effort, that's it. After that, leave it to Hashem. However, we need to pray. Prayer is always important because sometimes there are terrible decrees, prosecutions or accusations against us for something in the past. We want to remove those impediments, those obstacles. So we need to pray. And Hashem wants us to pray anyway, so we don't lose track that we're connected to Him. So there's many reasons to pray. But otherwise, this is beautiful. If a melech has bitachon, for sure, Bal Yimot, he will never fall apart. He will never collapse. Next pasuk. Anyway, so this is the man that we were talking about before. This is the man that Hashem is happy for. This is the man that Hashem me'ir lo panim. He has bitachon. In other words, that's the individual who can elevate himself to a very high level just because of his bitachon, his trust in Hashem. Timtza yadecha lechol oivecha yeminecha timtza son'echa. This is also very enigmatic pasuk, very puzzling, cryptic a little bit. David really, in this pasuk, is making a wish. But he's not only making a wish. Sometimes the words can be understood as also a request, a wish. And it could also be, he's telling us in the future what will happen. He's saying timtza. Timtza, by using taf, you will find. You will find. In other words, it doesn't have to be a request. We know you will find. Okay? So either way, however you want to translate it, Hashem, may you find. We don't really have to say that because we don't have to, think that Hashem can or cannot. He will for sure if He chooses to. So this is talking about the future, but it's also talking about at all times. Hashem's hand will find lechol oivecha. He will find all his enemies. What do you think that means? Anybody want to guess on that? Hashem will find them. They're hiding. That Hashem needs to find them. The simple meaning here is that no matter where they are, even though many of our old enemies, the enemies of God, are intermarried, assimilated to other cultures, other nations, like Amalek, they're everywhere. He's living in Zimbabwe. You know where that is? Yeah, Africa. He's hiding there. He got, somehow, his great-grandfather came to live there, married a native of that land. If he's an Amalekite, he's an Amaleki, he's an enemy of God, Hashem will find him there too. In other words, evil will be erased. Evil will be stamped out. Those who are considered enemies of God will be removed. Your hand will find him. Your hand? So remember, we've said this many times. Hashem does not have hands. Nobody should ever misunderstand that. It's metaphoric, but Kabbalistically too, it's referring to Midat Adin, Midat Rachamim here. We're talking about a right and left. We have Chesed and Gvura. On the right hand we have Chesed, on the left we have Gvura and the Sefirot. Right? Chesed is much more Rachamim. It's much more kindness. It's giving. The right hand gives. It's the Koach Hanoten, Hamashpia. And the left is the Koach HaMekabel. It is the energy that is receiving end, on the receiving end. So you have a male, a female, Zachar, and a Keva, right? We've talked a little bit about this in the Kabbalah many years ago. So you have here, if you want to translate a little, if you want to give it a little bit of a Kabbalistic touch, so your Yadecha, your left hand perhaps, because it says Yadecha, maybe your other hand, because then he says your right hand, so maybe this is the left, so this is Midat Adin. The attribute of justice has to be made. Justice does not forget. As we say in the prayer, Zocher Kol HaNishkachot, Rosh Hashanah, right? Hashem remembers all that has been forgotten, that is not written in the history books even. Hashem remembers. He doesn't have to put it on a hard drive. You know? He has another way where everything is recorded. Videotaped and recorded. So all those enemies in the past, they're gonna get justice. Yeminecha timtza sonecha. And your right hand will also find those who hate you. Oivecha is enemies, sonecha is those who hate you. Which one is worse? Sonecha or oivecha? Those who hate you or your enemies? Well, some people may say this, some people may say it. Let's just say that sonecha is usually less. They hate you, they're not your enemy. Yeminecha timtza sonecha. Now what's yeminecha? We just said, your right hand is more merciful. It's chesed. You have tiferet in between chesed and gvura, which is to somehow mitigate the gvura. Something in between. Because chesed is very giving. Very giving. So you have tiferet in between. The right hand is being applied here to sonecha. What could that be? Now we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes after his enemies. But why use the right hand here against sonecha? You could say it's a tremendous chesed for the world when the enemies are removed. Simcha, rina la'olam, there's joy for the world when there's less evil. That's a simple meaning. But I just thought it could also be, I always try to find something favorable. Hashem's right hand is stretched out to those who didn't want to believe in Him, who hated to be observant. Just thought of that now. Yeminecha, your hand is outstretched to them, and you will find them. You will call on them. You will knock on their door. I think this is an interesting idea. Just thought of it. So we're not just talking necessarily about removing them from their bad ways, maybe, but not necessarily physically. But there will come a time. Bezat Hashem, it's now where we're seeing a lot of people doing teshuvah. It's the right hand of Hashem that's calling out to them, reaching out to them, either in the merit of their parents and grandparents, or they're in their own merit. Maybe they saved a life when they were in Vietnam, or when they were working as a lifeguard on the beach. just for 1 or 2 merits of the past when they were 20 years old. It will come back to help them when they're 40 or 50. Who knows? So your right hand is also out there to reach out. Okay, now we're talking about something much more destructive. Now this one is not about compassion. This is about fire. Pasuk Yud says therefore like this, Teshitemo, which means more or less you will make them or make them into ketanur esh, like a fiery oven, a fiery furnace. Le'et panecha, at the time when you will deal with them. That's the way I'm translating it. Le'et panecha, at the time when you will face them, you will confront them. And it is really at a time of your anger with them. Adonai be'apo yevale'em v'tochlem esh. And Hashem will consume them in his be'apo, in his wrath, in his anger, and he will allow the fire to devour them, to destroy them. So, be'apo yevale'em, in his anger, they will be consumed, and they will, tochlem esh, they will be devoured or also consumed, similar word, by fire. What's going on over here? Fire, destruction, Hashem's anger. Now we do know, Kabbalistically, there are certain times of anger. That is what Bil'am was trying to figure out. But the greatest anger of all will come before Mashiach comes. The prophets talk about this. The prophets describe this. Part of the judgment that will be handed down to the Reshaim, to the wicked, in that time, will be a judgment from Gehenom. Gehenom is about fire. Spiritual fire, of course, but here it will be more physical. There will be some sort of fire that will consume, that will destroy a lot of the evil. The reason for, you ask why fire? We know water destroyed the world through the Mabul. There's still water used occasionally in a destructive way. There's wind as well. There's earthquake, which is the earth element. Hashem has many ways of bringing about, unfortunately, destruction. Earth opening up. Again, the earth. It's earth, water. Fire is din. It's a tremendous din. It's a din of Gehenom. Fire, because of what it represents, and we can't spend too much more time on it. That's why I'm trying to be brief. It represents Gehenom. It represents a purification. Also, fire purifies heat. So din is ultimately not going to punish you, set at you, destroy you. It's to refine the individual. It's to refine the world, purify it. That's part of Gehenom. Gehenom is not, as some would claim in other religions, purgatory. It is also a form of kapara, a form of atonement, a form of purification. In order for the soul to be cleansed, in order for it to be able to enjoy the Shekhinah in the upper worlds, it has to have no stains. So it needs sometimes to go through Gehenom. We're not talking about eternal Gehenom right now. So either way, this type of Gehenom will be felt by the Shaim very, very soon all over the world, where the judgment will be coming down to them through all kinds of avneil gabish, the prophet says, all kinds of fiery rocks from space, meteors, and all kinds of other elements that maybe we're not even aware of, that will come and bring about justice to the world. So who is this? Which enemies? Gog and Magog. So the armies of Gog and Magog will be completely destroyed through act of God. Hashem says, this battle is mine, not the Israeli army. This is mine. We say, Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz, God will be king over the whole world. Hashem's name will be exalted and elevated. We're talking about that. We're talking about Chiyat HaMetim as well, the resurrection. This is a time that the whole world will be shaken up. But the Reshaim will suffer the most. And what will happen to all those who belong to Amalek, even though it doesn't say it, that's the way I understood it. Piryamo me'eretz te'abed v'zar'am ibnei adam. You will destroy their offspring from the earth, their descendants, mibnei adam, from all of mankind, from all of humanity. Piryamo, their offspring, like their fruit. What that means is, like we said before, all the descendants, whoever belongs to them, wherever they may be, they will also be destroyed. Nothing will be left. Haman, his children, they were all hanged. Evil has to be removed wherever it is completely concentrated and there's no goodness there at all. There's a lot of mixture amongst many people, but that is the concentration of evil. Amalek is concentrated, so even their descendants, everything has to be removed. Hashem is building a new world. Hashem is preparing a new world, a clean world. Evil has to be removed. All its descendants will be removed. Kinatu alecha ra'a chashavu mezima bal yuchalu. This pasuk has several interpretations. I'll go through it quickly. Kinatu alecha ra'a, for they intended to commit evil against you. Chashvu mezima bal yuchalu. Chashvu mezima, they plotted conspiracies, even though they were not always able to execute them. Bal yuchalu. So you have Hashem is taking revenge, or Hashem is punishing who? Natu alecha ra'a chashvu mezima bal yuchalu. All kinds of nations and individuals who in the past did bad, or chashvu, they thought about it but they couldn't carry it out, they couldn't execute it. Hashem knows how many times wicked people intended to do harm, but He frustrated their plans. He did not allow them to succeed. It's going to count too. Hashem does not always count thoughts, but because they tried, just that He held them back. Not that they changed their mind or they were tired. He held them back because Hashem did not want them to do whatever they wanted to, of course. Chas v'shalom. If all the wicked plots would have succeeded, look what happened to September 11, where 3 planes pretty much succeeded, and not the 4th. If all their plots would succeed, chas v'shalom. Hashem does not allow every evil plot to succeed. So natu alecha ra'ah, they thought against you, against your people, all kinds of evil designs. They intended to do things. Chashvu, they thought about it, but some of them they could not do. Bal yuchalu. They will be punished for that too. And how will they be punished? That leads us to the next pasuk, which what I meant that has various interpretations. This is a little bit difficult to figure out when you just read it and translate it, but I'm going to first translate it anyway. Kitishitemo shechem, when the time will come, you will make them shechem. Shechem means like a shoulder, like one part, one portion, together. You will bring them about together. You will consolidate them. You will isolate them. All these words are acceptable. And once you do that, you will shoot at them with your arrows, your bowstring. Wow, okay, that's very poetic. You know, bringing all the goyim together, now I can aim, because I got them all together. If they're scattered, it's hard. So David HaMelech says, again, he's talking about the future, Hashem will bring him somehow together, according to one interpretation, Shechem meaning somehow as one lot, one group together, and he will shoot at them. In other words, and he will basically destroy them. Why choose the word Shechem? Why choose the words Bemetarecha? Another interpretation therefore says Shechem means their booty, their loot. As it says, it's described in Yechezkel, if you read the prophet Yechezkel chapter 37, 38, what will happen to all to Gog and Magog, what they will do with all the loot, the booty that they will leave behind, all that metal, they will use it for good things. In other words, those who remain will take all that the enemy left behind and convert it for good use. Tremendous value. Imagine taking all the missiles, all the tanks, all the ammunition, everything, and converting it for some beneficial use for humanity. Right? So Shechem here means you will make them into one big clump of booty. In other words, you will transform them basically to loot. Or booty is a better word because loot is really to take, to steal. What will be left over, you will be used for some other purpose. As a result of your attacking them b'metarecha with your bowstrings, with your arrows. In other words, once you defeat them, this is what will remain. I was not happy with this translation. It didn't seem to me like it was doing justice to the message here. Shechem, it is possible to say, let's avoid the total use of the word booty here. If it's talking about Gog and Magog, which it is in a sense, Hashem will bring them together. Even though He can get them wherever they are. They can be in New Zealand, they can be in Zanzibar, Tanzania as it's called today, right? They can be scattered too. We said that before. He's going to get all the descendants. Perhaps when they come together, that will be a big Kiddush Hashem. Of course, God's name will be sanctified. The war of Gog and Magog does consolidate and bring the enemy against Yerushalayim. So He's telling us a little bit of what it will look like. Hashem will consolidate and how. They won't even think of it on their own. Hashem will put it into their mind. You are the one that's going to cause them to come. As the Navi says itself, Hashem says, I will grab you by your muzzle, the Navi says, and bring you to do war. I don't want to. I'm going to grab you. Look at the world today. America doesn't want to invade or attack Iran. But if Hashem wants it, they're going to go. Hashem is going to drag them into it. They are going to say, you're not coming. We don't believe you. It's all bluff. You're a paper tiger. And whoever the president is, then he's going to say, oh, you think I'm a bluff? You see what I mean? Leave it to Hashem. Hashem has many ways of bringing about what's going to trigger the confrontation. Hashem oseh milchamot, Hashem does war. Not you. Hashem does it. So Teshitemu Shechem, it definitely has to do with Gog. When He brings them together, and then the metarecha somehow, metarecha. The reason why He uses metarecha here is because these are not just regular arrows or missiles. These are missiles from space. These are asteroids, comets, whatever you want to call them, meteors, right? When those rain down, those are special metarim from Hashem. Those are not your ordinary things. Okay. Yonatan ben Uziel, however, has a whole different take on this. He's saying that this is talking about Am Yisrael, the Jewish nation being together, united, Shechem, Echad. And this will be in preparation for B'metarecha techonen al penehem, when you build the Mishkan, the Bet HaMikdash for them. So obviously David HaMelech is expressing, according to this interpretation, that all of this will occur, all of this will take place as you bring Am Yisrael together, as unite them. So that's also, I thought, very interesting and very befitting to what he's saying too. Also a unity, but amongst the Jewish people. And of course, once all of that happens, the last pasuk of the Perek says, Ruma Adonai be'ozecha nashira nezamera gevurotecha. At that time, we say, may your name be exalted in your strength, that you will reveal, of course. We will be able, as a result of your exalted presence, strength, we will be able to sing, we will be able to praise gevurotecha, about your might. Why? Because today we say Kel Hagadol Hagibor. In the prayer, we say it. We don't sing it. David HaMelech says there will come a time that those words that describe the greatness of Hashem will be sung. And that's, of course, the time that we're waiting for to happen very soon. The Segula of this Perek has a certain power, and that is if you're going before a judge and you need help, this can help. And if you're happen to be on the Titanic and it's about to sink. No. If you're in a boat and it's a very stormy sea and it's dangerous, this Perek is also good for that. Stormy seas, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should protect us and should always be with us. And may His blessing, B'ezrat Hashem, be on all of us.
Amen. Amen.